I might be reading too much into this, but I feel like we've heard that exact same message a couple of times this offseason. Amari Cooper, Randy Gregory, Lyle Collins, those are names. And the production was not what they wanted or needed.
I think for each one of them, Kevin, we can point to a reason that you can justify that guy not being here.
Sure.
With Lyle, we discussed it as he was getting suspended again. Hey, look how many games this dude misses. But people forget that because he's so talented. Yeah. And that is where it is, Mike talks about that a lot. The guys that are higher around draft picks, the money invested in those guys, they're going to get more opportunities. The guys that are better are going to get more opportunities. But you have to ask yourself, are we setting our philosophy up that that's okay? That everybody else can just kind of mosey in and mosey out like that, and we're just going to throw you up there because you're a good player? Well, I mean, if you don't want that kind of culture in your clubhouse, in your locker room, you got to do something about it. With Randy Gregory, there were lots of stints of him going missing. Now, that whole contract situation, completely different ordeal.
Yeah.
Although the contract language had a lot to do with if you screw up again, you don't get all the money, which you've screwed up a lot. So all you have to do is not screw up. How difficult is that? Well, for you, it's difficult, and he didn't like it, so he felt personally attacked for that. And Amari Cooper, same thing. Didn't practice a lot of times, didn't practice through the preseason, and then missed a couple games because of not getting the vaccine, which Michael Irvin was probably sitting right there in Jerry's ear saying, this guy's not a winner. He's not committed to the team. You got to be committed. So like those things really did happen. Despite the amount of talent that those guys had, the Cowboys made the decision. I don't know if it was coaches. Because I don't think coaches are typically like, hey, get good players off my team.
Right.
But somebody made the decision of those people were not reliable, and they were keeping us from getting to our ultimate goal here. Now, is the talent level lower? Yeah, absolutely. And they didn't do a lot to make up for that talent in the offseason. So that's a reality.
And somebody brought this up, and I think this is the thing. This is what Corey was kind of just alluding to is, look how much Tyron Smith has missed at left tackle since 2016, yet he's still on the team. But the difference there is like, and you can think this is right, wrong, whatever. I'm just telling you, why does Tyron Smith miss games? Because he's hurt, right?
Not because he missed drug tests.
Exactly. Lyle Collins missed drug tests. Randy Gregory, and I know the rules have changed, but back when the rules were still the rules, he failed drug tests. Amari Cooper didn't want to get vaccinated. And again, I'm not saying that makes them bad people. I'm saying the philosophy of the Cowboys was, if you miss games due to non-injury concerns, that is not going to fly for us. And for everybody who's talking about Lyle Collins, I will tell you this, and if I'm wrong, fair enough. But I'm fine with them moving on from Lyle Collins. Lyle Collins, the last good year of football he had, 2019.
We are currently in 2022. Kevin.
Exactly. And so if you have questions about Terrence Steele, fair enough. But Lyle Collins, first of all, doesn't show up some of the times because of quote-unquote injuries, even though both of the Joneses told us that is not why he was missing these games. And then when he did play last year, well, guess what? The offensive line continuity looked a lot better at times with Terrence Steele than it did Lyle Collins, and that's a fact.
Yeah, so I don't know if I completely am like, all right, they're going to be better because of it. But when it comes to reliability, I mean, you kind of feel like Terrence Steele's not going to step out of line and lose you games and not be there for you in those moments. I mean, can you imagine being Dak and that's your best friend too? And you're having to like, hey man, I don't know why this guy keeps missing this time. I don't know why this is happening, but I need you, dude. I need you on the offensive line protecting me. But you keep missing these things. It can't happen anymore.
And this is always, I get it. This is 100% valid. From the 214, I don't believe a word of what the Snake Hope salesman says. I get it. I get it. And you don't have to.
I don't believe too.
Yeah, you don't have to believe any of this. And you might be right. It could just be spin. Hey, what do? We lost one of our top defensive players, one of our like up and coming defensive players. We lost one of the anchors to our offensive line, and we lost our best wide receiver. Like, that's best case scenario for all of those players. How are we going to spin this? You might be 100% right. But I'm telling you, the messaging is we think we are going to be better by subtraction. They have said that again and again.
I will say this, too. All right, and I'll be very open about this. Mike, I think this was before you joined us. there was one day where I turned around and Troy was still working our boards. Somebody else was supposed to be there.
Yep.
A few days later, after this guy apologized and all these things, few days later, I turn around. Troy had left. Nobody's sitting in the chair. There's nobody in that room. And I went down. We were both on air. And I said, Kevin, I'll see you in a minute.
Yeah.
You just started talking. I walked down the hall and told the bosses, I said, hey, nobody's on my board right now. We can't have this. Can't have that person. You know what? We got Reggie. Were we better off with Reggie? I love working with Reggie. I don't know that. What did you say, Reggie?
I said sorry.
No, I love working with Reggie. We were better off because we got Reggie to work with us here. And I've enjoyed every minute of it since, kind of. But that being said, like, you can't rely on somebody. You have to make that decision sometimes. Now, again, they're screwed at offensive line right now, or they're trying to move some pieces around and say, do we have enough talent? And the answer is no. They're going to have to find it somewhere, though. And maybe, Kevin, maybe a name will be more significant. Maybe a name will also have a player attached to it that can come in here and be that left tackle or guard or whatever it is the Cowboys need to make it through this year.
And that's where I think the sell job goes into whoever comes in, right? Like, let's just say it was Leatherwood. Although I do think we should reestablish that a first-round draft pick of the Raiders in the last 3 to 4 years doesn't count as a real first-round draft pick, but that's neither here nor there.
They've gotten 3 of their top 100 picks over the last few years.
My God.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so I don't think we should count that the same way as like when Jerry was like, Malik Hooker was a first-round pick. Like, don't sell me that Alex Leatherwood was a first-round pick because of what a travesty those Raiders drafts have been. But that's where I think the sell is going to come in, is they're going to be like, well, he's a first-round draft pick. And that, I get why it irritates people. The La'el Collins thing, I think that might be my pivot point with La'el Collins and Randy Gregory. For people who are more upset about Amari Cooper, I get it. Because even though there were a couple games where he's like, no, I could play, and then he was out really quickly, or he missed some games
Are
because
people
of
mostly
injury.
upset about the value you got back for Cooper than anything else? Like, you could have gotten this.
That's what I think, and I still think that ignores factors at play in the market, because I stand firm. Like, I remember we were doing a fan event the day he got traded, and KG was livid, and he still is livid, quite frankly, about it. And I was like, it was a great deal. You were going to cut him, and you got something for him. And I get that, like, in future wide receiving trading aspects, people were like, look how dumb the Cowboys are. Okay, the Cowboys had made up their mind. Whether you think they're stupid for moving on from Amari Cooper, that's fair enough. But they had made up their mind. They were going to cut him, and instead they got something for him. I don't care. I don't care what you get. If it's something instead of nothing, that's a win in terms of assets. Now, their decision and them broadcasting that to everyone, that's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
Maybe they could have gotten something better for Amari Cooper if they didn't make it plain and clear to everyone in the NFL that they were probably going to cut him. That's a different deal, and I agree with that. But, like, Randy Gregory has never had more than 6 sacks in his career. And for all the hope of, well, if you project this out, if you project this out, if you project this out, awesome. Show me the badass full season that he's consistently stacked together and why he deserved that kind of money. Same thing with La'el Collins.
I know it wasn't injuries, but then shouldn't Tyron Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence be off of this team too for 2022?
I very much agree with especially the DeMarcus Lawrence thing. But for whatever reason, the Cowboys have decided injuries are different than if you miss games for whatever reason. Dude, I'm with you on that. I also did not understand why we still hype certain players 100%. So if you want to make an argument that some people are more favored than others because they had stacked up more consistent seasons in the past, I think that is totally fair. I think the Cowboys, which is weird about Amari Cooper then, because, you know, Randy Gregory had never stacked up consistent seasons again and again and again, whereas Tyron Smith did, DeMarcus Lawrence did, but I think those are far enough in the past that they should have made some reconsiderations going forward. But I just saw an article this morning saying, oh, they should have franchise tag La'el Collins. I think that is an insane opinion.
Wait, before we move forward on the La'el Collins thing, because we've talked about Randy Gregory numerous times in this segment, and I don't think we've acknowledged the fact that they still wanted to bring him back. And that they, like, the negotiations kind of fell apart at the 1 yard line. Like, this doesn't feel like a point of any sort of moral stance in the way that you might be able to swing those other ones.
What was this was with Randy Gregory?
Yes.
But what was the point that was the sticking point? the language in the contract said if you miss these games for suspension, and he said, I can't, no. I understand he didn't trust the league. I wouldn't trust the league either in that situation. But that was the sticking point. Any other player is going to go, fine by me, I'll be there, man. I'm going to be on the field. I'm not going to get suspended. But that was the point where they were like, all right, whatever, man. If that's the thing that's going to get you upset because you're concerned that you're going to – that's how I would look at it. Now, I don't know if Jerry Jones was thinking of it differently, but if you're going to say you can't accept the responsibility of being a big leaguer, then I can't accept the responsibility of paying you this contract.